What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Yikes. Alright, so this is my second prediction in recent memory that didn't go as I thought it should go. But with that being said, I actually feel okay with it because I'm talking about Nonito Donaire versus Guillermo Rigondeaux. And if you watch my prediction, I did say it was a 50-50 fight, which I believed. Um, and I also gave love and showed respect to Guillermo Rigondeaux. I knew going into it that he was no pushover. But ultimately, what I thought would be the outcome was if it was a matter of who can outbox who, there was no way I would have said Nonito. Because he showed levels of frustration against Nishioka when he couldn't get to him right away. Same thing with Jeffrey Matabula, just because Jeffrey Matabula was so tall. But what I ultimately thought would happen in this fight, and that's pretty much why I favored Nonito, is Nonito's devastating punching power and the left hook. I thought it would play a part. I thought at some point Nonito would be able to, in a 12-round fight, bring Rigondeaux into the trenches, and it would be those moments where I thought he would be able to get Rigondeaux out. If you guys watch the fight, that is nowhere near what happened. Watching the fight, see, the first things first. Some people, if I don't favor your opinions or if I don't have the same opinion, I don't share the same opinion, I've been called biased. But fuck that. If you listen to my videos, you'll know that I always try to give you it's an introspective look at what I feel on boxing. I'm not always right, and I'm okay with being wrong, especially if it's a good, entertaining fight. So some of you guys just call out the boxing, and I can tell you don't watch my other videos because you call this and this out, but it's very one-sided. But as far as this Rigondeaux, there's no excuse I can make. He outclassed Nonito Donaire. I was wrong. He completely almost shut Nonito Donaire out. Like, I would only give Nonito maybe the round, definitely the round where he knocked Rigondeaux down. I would give him that round. That's a 10-8 round. And maybe like one or two, maybe. So as far as the judges' scorecards, they had the fight fairly close. I don't know what they were watching, but as far as me, up until the knockdown, it was pretty much a shutout from my view, from what I seen. I thought they were fighting at Rigondeaux's pace. So that's one way that I look at it when I judge is who is this fight, who is it favoring? And it was clearly favoring Rigondeaux. He was fighting at his pace and just using movement, lateral movement. He looked very accurate and very sharp, really crisp. He mixed up his punches. One thing that I really liked about Rigondeaux, especially in the earlier rounds, was he was throwing some nasty body shots, and that's also the type. And that's where the amateur experience, probably comes into play. Those body shots are worse than the people that headhunt, because those body shots pay dividends later in the fight, and I think that's what happened. It's clear to me Nonito has a chin. He definitely has a chin because some of those shots I think would have at least dropped other people in the division. So props to Nonito for that. But other than that, it was really just a shutout in my eyes from what I've seen, with Rigondeaux being the supreme boxer whose amateur pedigree definitely transitioned over into the pro fight game. He's a beast. There's nothing else that you could really say. Nonito tried, but I ultimately thought he would have a little bit more versatility, a little bit more adapt. That looks similar to me to a Brandon Rios versus Mike Alvarado, not the fight in its entirety, but in the sense of Brandon Rios was trying one game plan and it wasn't working against Alvarado. He had his success maybe in round two, and this I'm talking about the rematch, and the one game plan wasn't working, and throughout the fight, he didn't really diversify or try anything else or mount a different attack or different approach. He pretty much, in the Alvarado Rios, I think Rios pretty much stayed in the same gear. And actually, some of the things he was doing earlier, like jabbing, he went away from. So it was actually making it worse for him. So similar, the resemblance with this fight, I guess, is Nonito pretty much stayed in the aggressor role through the whole, like trying to cut off the ring, trying to pressure Rigondeaux, and it obviously wasn't working because Rigondeaux his movement was bothering Nonito. You could see it. To me, it looked like Nonito was visibly frustrated, dealing with that movement and those counter shots. And obviously, Rigondeaux has respectable power because someone like Nonito, you're not gonna just get him to stop stalking you unless they're worried about something. So maybe it was the speed or the power, or maybe it was both of them that really bothered Nonito, and it it hindered him from just running in as reckless as we've probably seen him in the past. But shit, that happens in the sport of boxing. Rigondeaux definitely impressed. But again, I'm okay with my predictions being wrong just because I told you guys for both of the predictions in recent memory, I said they're 50-50 fights. We're getting some good boxing fights. This is no different. And then the other one that was wrong on was Mike Alvarado versus Brandon Rios, part two. And there is some controversy. Some people thought Rios won. I don't think he won, even though I projected him to win. But, I mean, these are close fights, so I really can't complain. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'm still getting to see things that are entertaining. I guess it wasn't entertaining to everybody because they were booing in the audience based on Rigondeaux's more purist fighting at his pace style. I guess they wanted to see heads knocked off, and that was just what the crowd wanted to see. I guess they were looking for a Brandon Rios or Timothy Bradley, Ruslan Provodnikov type affair. But what I seen tonight was just beautiful boxing. Rigondeaux did his thing. He controlled the pace. He used his jab as a rangefinder. He used body shots. He used excellent footwork and movement. There's a couple points where he used such tremendous amounts of footwork and movement that somebody who's fast, their name is the Filipino Flash, somebody like Nonito who is actually fast, couldn't even set up for the counter because he was ducking and really low and in and out. I mean, that takes skill. So whatever Rigondeaux, 400, 300, whatever amount of fights he had in the amateurs, it definitely paid off because he's rose to the occasion. Within 11 fights, he had a belt. He just dethroned Nonito Donaire. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. I'm anxious. I don't really see... I mean, Abner Mars is no longer in the division, and he beat Abner Mars in the amateurs, so I don't know how how Abner Mars looked back then, so I don't know if that'd be a different fight, but if that fight's made, most likely it would have to be made at 126. But like I said, I didn't predict this. I didn't think it would be so one-sided, but in my honest opinion, I felt it was very one-sided. Nonito stalk, and the better of the punches, the better of the footwork was was Rigondeaux throughout the whole thing. So I really can't say much in terms of what Donaire did right. I can say, unfortunately, more things that he did wrong. Even in the post conference where he's talking to Kellerman, he was like, "Oh, I didn't watch tape." I don't know. I guess he must have underestimated, and maybe that did happen. I think that's possible. I think Nonito. I'm not giving any excuses because Rigondeaux just did his thing in a dominant fashion. But what I am saying is, I honestly think Nonito probably went in there with a cocky mentality, I think he became complacent. Every other opponent he's dealt with in the last 4 to 6 fights, he's been able to kind of run through them, and maybe he got a little bit power happy and relied on that too much and didn't really understand Rigondeaux's a different animal, and you're going to have to watch tape. You're going to have to look for openings. You're going to have to adapt. Because another thing that Rigondeaux does, and I've seen him do it in his last 2 fights. I don't know if he fought anyone else in between Robert Marroquin and Nonito, but I think in the last 2 fights I've seen Rigondeaux do it. He gets knocked down and he recovers really quick, and he does it in such a chill, composed fashion. It's almost scary. It's definitely someone you don't want to fuck with, and I think he's gonna stick to Pedro Diaz, Miguel Cotto's ex-trainer. I don't know if he's still working with Cotto, but that looks like it's a good fit. They both have the Cuban heritage link. They both worked together in the past in the amateurs, so I think it's a good fit. I think it's definitely a good coach for Rigondeaux. So I'm anxious to see what happens next. Will they do a rematch? But this fight really looked like a Sergio Martinez versus Chavez Jr. to me, where it was one person doing whatever the fuck they wanted for majority of the fight, and the other person trying to catch up and trying to corner them and um, look good for a round. So that's basically how I seen it. That's the straight up. Let me know what you guys thought of the fight. As always, I keep it fair and honest. That's just in my nature. I have to. I'm not going to, because it's my prediction like some other channels. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, Nonito was robbed or whatever. I predicted Nonito to win, and I'm telling you, I was clearly wrong because what I've seen is superior boxing skills exhibited from Guillermo Rigondeaux. I knew it was going to be a good fight. I didn't think it would be this one-sided, but to me, it was really one-sided. So props to Rigondeaux. I'm anxious to see how Nonito bounces back from this. And just go show you in the sport of boxing, you really can't underestimate opponents based on any one thing, and you're going to have to learn to adapt. Someone's going to bring that out of you that forces you to adapt. I think that's one of the reasons I like Floyd Mayweather so much is because he showed that he can adapt. Zab Judah was a perfect example of this, where Zab Judah was winning the early rounds, and the mid to late rounds, Floyd took over. And that's just with having a brain and knowing when to switch gears. Like, yo, this is not working at all. This dude came with a bag of tricks that I wasn't expecting. What do I do? And Mayweather's excellent about adapting. Marquez is another fighter who I respect their technical aspect and ability to adapt. I mean, he was clearly losing round 6 against Pacquiao. His face was starting to deteriorate, and he timed a perfect right hand and knocked Pacquiao the fuck out. So Nonito's gonna have to learn from those types of fighters in terms of his game. And like I said, I'm anxious to see where does he go from here. Does he go straight to 126 like he was supposed to go if he got past Rigondeaux, or is he gonna stay at 122? Try to do a rematch. Let me know what you guys think. What's next for both fighters? I really don't see much for Rigondeaux at 122. I think he's gonna have to move up to 126. I would love to see Mikey Garcia get a shot at it, like a Mikey Garcia after a couple more fights. Gary Russell Jr. in Rigondeaux. I would love to see really anybody at 126 if they could do a Juanma Lopez catch weight, because they were talking about doing a Nonito Donaire Juanma. Shit, do a Rigondeaux Juanma Lopez. Just see what he does at a higher weight class, because I don't think there's really anything else Rigondeaux can improve at 122. That's just my opinion. If there is somebody, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who can Rigondeaux beat from now? I mean, you've already dethroned Nonito Donaire, so if it's not a rematch with him, who's going to be more impressive to beat? Abner Mars is no longer in the division. You just beat Nonito Donaire convincingly. So, like I said, I just don't see much at 122. So let me know what you guys think. That's my post-fight analysis on the fight. It was entertaining to me. I don't know if some of you guys didn't like it, but it was entertaining just because I knew that even though Nonito was behind, he always had a puncher's chance, but he just never was able to get into his rhythm. In the 12th round, he looked real bad, just fighting out of desperation, and I think his eye was like fucked up. But I honestly think what Rigondeaux said at the end was very true, and it shows how seasoned he is as a fighter. Rigondeaux said he's a solid fighter, but you can't win a fight with one punch. And that's more or less the mindset that it looked like Donaire was using. Like, oh, okay, I'm just going to land this big money shot that have gotten people like Montiel and Darchinian out. But Darchinian doesn't have a Rigondeaux defense. So, I mean, really nobody does except for like a Mayweather or somebody with a crazy defense. But yeah, so he definitely should have looked into some past fights of Rigondeaux to get like more of a game plan or how they can adjust. Kind of feel bad for Robert Garcia. Two of his cash cows, Brandon Rios and Nonito Donaire, just recently lost their most recent fights. He was starting his year off good by having his little brother Mikey Garcia, who rose to the challenge of Orlando Salido. He dethroned Orlando Salido, who a lot of people thought would beat Garcia. And then he was on the Mexican-Russian Gradovich train because he dethroned Billy Dibbs. So it looked like Robert Garcia was going to have a crazy year. But now his biggest stars on his stable just lost their fight. So where do they go from here? Let me know what you guys think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Until next video, it's Ego signing off.